Hello whisky fans, I'm looking at a whisky today that I've fast-tracked the review ahead of some others, and the reason for that is it's a new release and it's also said to be a Christmas special, and also because it's a Kilchoman. And Kilchoman is a distillery that I really like. It's a little bit of an ongoing internal conflict with myself as to what is my favourite Islay distillery, but any day of the week I would say that Kilchoman is definitely in my top 3. And before I get started, I'd like to say a thank you to Sid Finch for bringing this one to my attention so that I can bring it to yours. So this Kilchoman, it is exclusive to M&S here in the UK, which is one of our supermarkets. So this is going to be one that you're probably only going to be able to get hold of if you live in the UK or somewhere that has M&S. And return viewers to my channel are going to know that I've reviewed a few M&S products, and a couple fairly recently. I've reviewed their 8-year-old blended Scotch and their 5-year-old brandy, and I really liked that blended Scotch for £18. I think the price has gone up a couple of pounds now, but still very affordable, decent, dependable dram. As for the brandy, I kind of hated it, didn't really get on with that one at all, didn't really feel like I got my £18 worth, and personally I think that's a fairly good reputation of what I've had, kind of a little microcosm of the reactions that I've had from the M&S products that I've bought. I think that they can be very hit or miss. Some of them are very good, a lot of them are a little bit pricey, but some of them are a little bit pants. So hopefully this is going to fall into the former category. So this is Kilchoman, it's Loch Gruinart. Give you a little close up of the box. So it's the standard, or very recognisable, mostly Kilchoman presentation. Physical presentation, that is. So the kind of box that we're all familiar with, and a very familiar bottle and label and stopper and coin thing at the top as well. You can hit pause on that and have a read if you want to. So Loch Gruinart is, I think it's actually a nature reserve or something along those lines, out on the Isle of Islay, and it's very close to the Kilchoman distillery. And anyone that knows where Kilchoman is, they'll know that it's out on what they call the Rins of Islay, which is kind of the western part of the island. And even though Islay's not a very big island, the roads are basic and it takes a very long time to get anywhere from anywhere when you're on Islay. So even though out where Kilchoman is, it looks pretty close to civilization, it actually takes quite a while to get there. And I get the feeling that a lot of people don't bother to really explore the Rins out on Islay, but I absolutely think that that part of Islay is definitely worth a visit, or at least at the very minimum, at least a drive through. And Loch Gruinart itself is a wonderful place. There's various walks that you can do in the area, and it's not too busy because it's really a little bit away from the beaten track, and it's a really nice place. So it kind of follows the theme that we get from Kilchoman of naming their releases and their expressions after geographical areas and features on Islay. So we've had Senaig already, and Maca Bay, and Loch Gorm obviously, and Loch Gruinart follows in that pattern. The name Loch Gruinart has been used for Kilchoman expressions in the past, at least twice that I'm aware of, and Kilchoman Loch Gruinart releases have been released in various regions with various age statements or lack of, and with various cask maturations. So a little bit of a mixed bag. It seems to me like they're using Loch Gruinart as kind of the label for fairly budget supermarket exclusive releases. So the presentation on this one, aside from the label, the box comes in this reasonably dark box, and obviously Loch Gruinart is kind of maybe a bit similar to Loch Gorm with the dark colour scheme and the loch. Perhaps actually looks quite a bit darker when you hold them up next to each other. But I don't know if they think that some people might think that this is going to be like a cheapy Loch Gorm. When you see the colour of this whisky though, and this is an important thing that I'll come back to. Let's hold something up. The colour of this whisky is relatively light for a Kilchoman, which should immediately make anyone realise that this is unlikely to be a cheapy Loch Gorm, or at least it's not going to be the same style as a Kilchoman Loch Gorm. I would say that the colour of this one, it looks bourbon matured and possibly even refill bourbon. Obviously, because this is a Kilchoman, we know this is a natural colour whisky. So in this case, which unlike the majority of Scotch that you can buy, in this case the colour does actually tell us something. Now, if you ask some people, they'll tell you that colouring and the colour of a whisky and whether it's natural colour and whether or not they tell you it's natural colour doesn't matter. Some people will say that's irrelevant, and even if that were true, even if it was irrelevant to a whisky and how it tastes and smells, I would still disagree. The natural colour in this whisky, it allows us to make a limited judgment of the casks that have been used in this whisky, and we're only able to make that judgment because we know that it's a natural colour product. And in the case of this whisky here, the fact that it's natural colour and it is that very pale colour was definitely a factor in me buying this whisky. And yes, you heard me right, I bought this whisky partly because it is paler than most Kilchomans. Another factor in my decision to buy this one is the price, because this stuff, it's on sale at the moment and it hopefully will be on sale for at least a few weeks to give a lot of you whisky fans the chance to buy it if you choose to, and it's on sale for the price of £35. So it's almost certainly the cheapest Kilchoman that you're ever going to get. Details on the label in the box on this one, we know that it is part of the M&S collection, so it is an M&S exclusive. The box and label tell us that it's a 46% whisky, that it's natural colour, that it's non-chill filtered, and it's matured in a combination of American and European oak. So being 46% natural colour and non-chill filtered, it's also one of the cheaper craft presentations that you're going to get. So the question is, the million-dollar question, how does this compare to other Kilchoman releases? Perhaps, how does it compare to kind of the standard sort of entry level, in a way, Kilchoman, the Maccabee? Or with the mention of sherry casks going into this, how does it compare to something like Sonaig? Like I said before, at this colour and at this price level, I really don't think that we can have any right to expect a cheapy Loch Gorm alternative with this one, but hopefully we'll get something good. Let's be dangerous. There we go. So Kilchoman Loch Gruinart on the nose. Immediately some of that trademark Kilchoman farmy peat. Quite a farmy and ashy peat. A little bit light and also quite dry. Something that I don't get to a huge extent on the Maccabee is that it is a little bit lighter than the average Kilchoman, and it's also not quite got the usual sweetness. It's not got that sweet and creamy fruitiness that you get from the bourbon casks on most Kilchomans. A little bit salty and a moderate amount of damp oakiness. In with the saltiness, a little bit of a green olive note. Ashy, like I think I said before, ashy charcoal. A little bit of a mild bonfire and charcoal barbecue note. Slightly fumy, in with the peatiness, smoky, peaty, fumy. Slightly meaty and peppery, which I think there's evidence that there has been some sherry casks in this, but it's really not a lot. So mild, meaty, peppery, European oak notes, as well as some fruity maltiness hiding amongst the dry oak, and a little bit of a note of like a lime cordial. Let's see how it tastes. On the palate, again, you can really tell this is a Kilchoman. It doesn't disappoint for anyone that's looking for that textbook Kilchoman style. Anyone that's a fan of Maccabee, that's looking for a slightly cheaper alternative from that distillery in that house style, will not be disappointed. So we're getting some really nice farmy peat, dry, ashy peat, as well as some dry, slightly sour oakiness. So really, I do think that my suspicions that this is predominantly bourbon and maybe refill have really been confirmed. In my opinion, I think that the casks in this one are not quite contributing as much as they normally do in the average Kilchoman, and I think that the lack of sherry in this one really makes it closer to a Maccabee than even a Sanaig, let alone a Loch Gorm. I have to say though that I don't hate that slightly sour oakiness on the palate of this one. I do think that it is a clear sign that they're using slightly less fresh, less active casks in this one, but I think that's absolutely fine. I'm okay with it. I actually think that it gives it some really nice traction, and the sour, slightly dry oakiness gives it a little bit of depth. Those casks have still done their job. It's mature enough, and I think that the refill nature of this actually highlights the peat and malt really well. Other notes on the palate, getting a little bit of a grassiness and almost a burnt hay note. A little bit of an ashiness mixing in with the peat, which is something that I quite often get from a Kilchoman. I would say that the palate on this whiskey, it is smoky on the arrival and peaty later on. So the phenolic notes, the peatiness, it does develop quite nicely. I do also think that there is a hint of dark chocolate and dried fruits on the late palate of this whiskey. So again, suggestions that sherry casks have been used, but really sherry is not part of the main profile of this whiskey, and it's really mainly there for those that are looking hard for it. As for the finish, I'm going to go with long, which is probably the case with any Kilchoman. Long and lingering, with a little bit of note of cough sweets, and more of that charred ashy oak, and some really nice sweet maltiness. So yeah, the quality that you expect from Kilchoman at a slightly lower price. I do think that they've been economical with the casks. This is probably a whiskey that's been vatted from B grade casks, and that's not a term that the whiskey industry uses. It's just it's my explanation that these are not bad casks of whiskey, but more economical casks that have maybe been used once, been judged to not be imparting quite the level of flavour that they would want in Maccabee, so they've been relegated to this supermarket exclusive. But they're still plenty good enough and providing a really good experience. And in my opinion, if I'm right, because I'm not necessarily, but if they are refill casks that have been used for this, in my opinion, refill is not always worse. I think that refill should absolutely be a choice. It should be something that is embraced and used more regularly by the Scotch industry. And like I said before, I actually like the dry oaky edge that you're getting from the casks on this one, and the fact that you haven't got quite that much creamy sweetness sort of standing on top of the other flavours in the profile with this one. So verdict for Kilchoman Loch Gruinart. It is young, as a lot of Kilchomans are, but again, that's not a bad thing. It is young, but it's also cheap, and it's good. As I've said, I do think that some minor corners have been cut in the production of this Loch Gruinart, but not in any terrible way. I think that compared to the rest of the lineup that you get from Kilchoman, it's most similar to the Maccabee. I think that the Maccabee, compared to this, it's a very, very similar profile. But I think that the Maccabee just has a little bit more flavour. It's slightly more intense, but only slightly. It's that little bit brighter, a little bit sweeter. You can tell that they've used some fresher casks. And I do think that the Maccabee is ever so slightly peatier, whereas the Loch Gruinart, it is a little bit simpler and a little bit flatter. If the two were on sale at the same price, I would without a doubt go for the Maccabee. But that's not the case. This stuff's selling at £35. That's £10 off what you're going to pay for a Maccabee in 2023. Some people might see the refill casks and that dry oakiness that I'm getting from this one and see that as a little bit of an undesirable flaw. But really, I would say that the difference between this and Maccabee is really not huge. In my opinion, it is a little bit of a Maccabee light or a Kilchoman economy, which M&S would probably really hate hearing me say. But honestly, I think that a lot of malt enthusiasts are probably going to see it that way. Is it worth the money though? £35 for a 46% natural colour non-chill filtered Kilchoman, which gives you 90-95% of what you get from a Maccabee? Absolutely. How many other 46% natural colour non-chill filtered single malts do you get for £35? Not many. I think that this one is a great gift for Islay fans. I think that it's a great value buy for anyone looking for a smoky Christmas malt. And anyone that knows someone that's getting to grips with the different categories of Islay and they might appreciate something on the smoky side, I think it's a fantastic introduction to Islay. Because it has to be said that Kilchoman, and they've not been around for long. I think they were founded in 2005. I can't actually see it at a glance, but I'm pretty sure 2005 was when they started. So they've been there for less than 20 years. They've recently come out with a couple of 16-year-old expressions, which is the oldest whiskey that they've released to date. So they really are currently the new guys of Islay. And they've already really carved a place for themselves in that landscape. And in my opinion, Kilchoman have rapidly overtaken a lot of the non-craft distilleries on Islay. A lot of those distilleries that are still giving us chill filtered, unnaturally coloured, weak, watery 40% whiskies. Kilchoman has completely leapfrogged them, and I absolutely think that, like I said at the start of this video, Kilchoman is without a doubt in my top 3 favourite Islay whiskies. So yeah, an excellent little value Islay dram for you, and hopefully a little heads up for you for anyone in the UK to get down there and get your bottle. A little bit of inside information there for you, courtesy of Whisky Loch, courtesy of viewer Sid Finch. Let me know what you think if you've had this one. How do you rate it against the rest of the Kilchoman lineup? And what do you think of Kilchoman? Thanks for watching, and cheers.
Mm-hmm.